will see you later today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi there. All right. I just wanted to let our guest speakers hop in first to see if they had any
Great.
questions before we let others in.
And I followed up with Laws. I know he was in DC last night and wasn't getting in until super late. It's possible something happened with his schedule.
Sure.
You know. So I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
So we'll just indicate we know he was doing, he was, if he doesn't show up, that he was in DC until late last night and, traveling.
Okay.
Okay. Morning, Bonnie.
Good morning. Sorry, I had 3 Zoom meetings for this one and I finally picked the right one to open.
And today is Bonnie's birthday. She's our birthday girl.
Wow. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm old today.
Please. Please. Don't even.
I feel old today.
Well, Eric, Stephanie, Andy, any final questions before we start letting people in?
No, I think I'm good.
Thank you so much too for being a part of this.
Having me.
Yeah, good morning. I'm just getting into my hotel, so I'm camera off right now. I'll be on here in just a few seconds.
Perfect, no problem. And I think we have you a little bit later on, Eric, so you've got a little time to get settled down and into your room and whatnot. So perfect. All right, we've got a whole bunch of people in the waiting room, so I'll start letting them in.
Danielle, am I supposed to be kicking this off?
No,
Bonnie will be.
Okay.
We must have a pretty good attendance.
It looks like it. I think we will just go ahead and get started. Danielle, I wasn't sure if you wanted me to share my screen or if you wanted to share yours, but there we go. Oh, I cannot share mine. Okay, so welcome to the apprenticeship learning community for the month of May. This is National Youth Apprenticeship Week, so today's topic is going to go right along with that. We do have some special guests today that will be joining us. If you don't mind, please put your names and institutions in the chat so that we have a record of everybody that has been here. In just a moment, I'm going to pass over the duties to Angela. We are going to overview of our definitions. We'll talk about, we have a panel of guest speakers here today that are going to talk to you about youth apprenticeships. And then at the end, we'll have some time for open discussion and questions. So if you don't mind adding all of your information to the chat, we will just go ahead and get started. So Angela, I will pass this over to you.
Sure. And whoever's screen sharing, we can currently see your email.
It's not me.
I mean, it doesn't look like there's anything top secret on there yet, but you know, okay. We've all been there and done that and gone, ooh,
Hold on, I'm gonna come give you a hug.
So welcome to, as Bonnie said, this meeting. I think Danielle's trying to share slides. These slides and the recording of this will be saved. I'm gonna drop a link in the chat while this is all coming up. This is on, I can make this work. This is the website on ICCB, our page where the apprenticeship information link is at the bottom. When you click on that link, it says information, apprenticeship information, it will take you into another page that says learning community information. And then once you click on that, you can click on the month, and that's where we are posting recordings and everything. So you'll find a May 2024 and click on that, and you'll have access to the slides and the recording and everything. But give us a couple of days to get that, because as we all know, these recordings sometimes take just a minute to get rendered and shared and everything that way. So,
And Angela, I'm
yes,
going to interrupt you. Would you, hey, everyone, if you are not on our current apprenticeship listserv here at ICCB and you want to be, you'll receive like resources about apprenticeship grants and upcoming notices about the learning communities, etc. When you put your information in the chat, just put the word listserv, you know, add to listserv or something like that, and then we'll know to add you to our listserv. Sorry for interrupting the flow.
that's okay. With that, we really need an email. If you want us to add you, we need an email. So you should have gotten an email. I believe Danielle sent one this morning as a reminder for this meeting. So if you did not get that email, you're not on our listserv. So in which case, name and email is what we need to get you on the listserv. Okay.
Thanks.
Great reminder. Thank you, Levon. Okay, back to youth apprenticeships. Youth apprenticeship programs typically serve youth that are age 16 to 24. And in 2022, there were 228,535 youth apprentices that were registered in registered apprenticeships. So that's a good number, but we'd like to see it bigger, of course. There's a couple of different models for youth apprenticeship programs. Pre-apprenticeship programs for youth prepare students to enter an apprenticeship, and registered and unregistered apprenticeship programs that begin in high school, community college, or dual enrollment opportunities that allow youth to start their apprenticeships while they're still a student. So really model one is for those that may be out of a high school setting, because again, these are 16 to 24-year-olds. They may have dropped out, they may have already graduated, but they're looking at something else. So that pre-apprenticeship piece is what could lead to an apprenticeship, or they're actually part of an apprenticeship that's starting while they're still enrolled in high school or in a community college or dual enrollment situation. Again, youth apprenticeships, as we talked about last month, are both registered and unregistered. Youth apprenticeships are the same. They can be registered or they can be unregistered. All right, next slide. So what are the elements of an apprenticeship program that's serving youth? These are some pieces that have to be included. They need to satisfy labor market needs. This is true of apprenticeships as well. If you don't have the need in your area, that's not going to go anywhere. They need to address the skills that are matching the individual assessments that promote competencies that the businesses need. So again, when you're talking to employers, you need to make sure that you're addressing the skills that they need. They need to align with academic and technical standards and secondary, post-secondary. And these also then lead right into, as regular apprenticeships, nationally recognized credentials and certifications. So similar to apprenticeships, they're just a different age group, but they also need to provide strong linkages to adult registered apprenticeship programs in the community, or unregistered apprenticeship programs if that's where you're at with your institution. So again, you don't want to do a pre-apprenticeship in like culinary that's going to lead to a construction apprenticeship. Those don't connect. You got to have, there needs to be a connection between the youth apprenticeship and the adult version apprenticeship.
Hey, and Angela,
Yes.
one other point too, maybe you're getting to it and I just don't remember. But for those of you that aren't, you're coming into apprenticeships or you're not part of our regular ongoing learning communities where we've talked about a lot of these terms and definitions. For the community college system in Illinois, we allow, unless you're under a grant that specifies registered or you have an employer that wants registered, you can do what we call an unregistered apprenticeship. So for all intents and purposes, it looks like it is an apprenticeship. You have a, relationship with the employer. You have all those pieces in place. You're just not running it through the Department of Labor. And many times employers really aren't interested in that. And we know how valuable it is that you work with that employer. So we don't want that to be a hindrance. You can always build the registered apprenticeship later if that's what they want after they've gained confidence, in working with you. But I just wanted to point that out for those of you that may go, well, what's an unregistered apprenticeship? So.
Right. And as I mentioned previously on that website, last month's topic at the virtual learning community was all registered and unregistered.
Yeah.
So if you have questions, you can take a look at that website, find the April discussion, watch that video, look at the slides, and get some more information. All right, Danielle, I believe I'm going to you. I say confidently.
All right, well, at this point, we are going to hand over the session to our experts, our youth apprenticeship experts that have joined us on the call. So we really appreciate them being a part of the conversation today and learning more about their approach to youth apprenticeship. So we have Andy Hepburn, who's going to be joining us, who's here with GPS Education Partners, Stephanie Gomez from Career Launch Chicago as part of the City Colleges of Chicago, and Eric Hill, who's the Executive Director for Skills USA. So we have this set up so that each one of them has, 8 to 10 minutes to talk about their model of apprenticeship and their approach, their organization and what that looks like, whether that be on a sort of a national, state, or even a local level. And then at the end, we're going to have an opportunity for questions and being able to, hopefully our panelists can stick around and help facilitate some conversation and questions that might come up from the group. So without anything further, I'm going to hand it over to Andy. Andy, I threw your slides in here, but I have to say the formatting might be a little off. So let me know if you need me to pull up the other version of the slide deck you had sent to me, and I'll hand it over to Andy.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm Andy Hepburn. I'm with GPS Education Partners. We're a nonprofit organization based in Wisconsin. We function as a work-based learning intermediary. So we work with schools, employers. We also run programming in Wisconsin, which I'll talk about a little bit, and with collections of schools and regions to think about how to build out high school youth apprenticeships and work-based learning solutions. So we do more than just youth apprenticeship, but as you guys know, it's an important element for young folks to engage in if they're at the right space and time in their development. And so that's a big part of our program's history. Next slide. So format did change. That's all right. It'll work out fine. So this is just our background. We've been operating a program in Wisconsin for about 25 years. It'll be 25 next year. It's a education delivery system solution, like an alternative education program that includes a youth apprenticeship, a 2-year youth apprenticeship. And we've been running that in manufacturing in Wisconsin for about, like I said, about 25 years. We play a role as the work-based learning consortium provider in that space, and we serve a couple hundred students a year in that program, helping them advance in that space. About 5 years ago, we also started to branch out and develop solutions that we could provide to schools, employers, communities to help grow and scale what that looks like. So that's where our role is an intermediary. And I'll talk about a couple of those projects as well. But we think there's, we find that we work with, there's employers who want to try to engage with education. And then there's obviously schools that are on this journey of kind of shifting to a more career for all or a career and college type of model. And then there's the opportunities to kind of get in and really work and support folks to build and scale these type of solutions. Our goal is just to advance and change, bring work-based learning as an educational practice to the high school experience primarily, but we also work with a number of colleges to kind of make sure we have the right offboarding and roadmap for students to move across that space. This is just a sample of places we've been and what we look at. So a lot of focus in the Midwest. I'll talk about a lot of those things. We're going to highlight kind of 3 programs that we're working in, a little bit around our existing program in Wisconsin. And then we have 2 community projects, one in Minnesota in Hennepin County, and then one in Illinois in DuPage County. And so we'll talk about both of those as we get further into the presentation. So as I said, we're really about work-based learning, and many of you probably have seen or kind of the concept of a student continuum of work-based experiences. And so we work with, trying to help and build and connect employers, and that's our strong point, is kind of working with employers to help them interact with students in schools along this journey, starting in middle school with career awareness activities, bridging into high school to think about the types of meaningful work-based experiences. Illinois' got a great kind of structure that's been set up over the last couple of years at the state level to really support high schools to think about what types of work-based experiences need to be offered in 9th and 10th grade. And obviously a youth apprenticeship in particular falls into the kind of career experience, career preparation area for us. So it's for those students at the end of high school who've started to think about or see an opportunity in a specific career, and giving them that deeper, more immersive experience that allows them to start their career either right after high school or right after the aligned college program. Most of our work in youth apprenticeship has its roots in the program that exists in Wisconsin. If you're unfamiliar with Wisconsin's youth apprenticeship program, it's the oldest program in the country that's been supported by the state. It started in 1991. Wisconsin is a state apprenticeship office, and so they created a youth apprenticeship program 30 years ago that kind of existed for a long time as its own kind of subset under the Department of Labor. In the last 5 or 6 years, they've done a lot of work to bridge that with their registered apprenticeship office. And so a lot of the work that we do when we think about this is about how do we create the right type of apprenticeship experiences at the high school level, and then bridge them to the appropriate registered apprenticeship opportunities, if that's what aligns, either employer driven or our 2 projects we'll talk about today give us the opportunity to connect it directly to college sponsored apprenticeship programs. So currently, we're running kind of 3 full-on regional models, and that's also a big part of our work, is thinking about how to scale and grow these things. Apprenticeships and work-based learning tends to be very local. It tends to be, especially at the high school level, a lot of burden falls on the high schools to create and develop these type of programs. And so our role is to help think about how do we do that and gain some efficiencies by collecting the regional structure. And I think community colleges and technical colleges play a really important role in that space, because they already have relationships with the high schools. They already have relationships with employers. And so it's really about connecting that experience that could be built in high school so that it efficiently branches over. So I mentioned before, we have kind of 3 different types of regional programs. The Hennepin West project is actually a Perkins collaborative of 13 school districts and 2 colleges, one of which is a technical college. We've been operating there for about 3 years. We have 3 or 4 pathways, with advanced manufacturing and healthcare being the 2 largest. And we're currently in year 1 of helping the technical college actually launch their own registered apprenticeship. Minnesota is also a state apprenticeship entity, and so there hasn't been as rich of a structure for allowing that to happen. So it's a bit of a leap there and getting them to make that happen. We're seeing great investment in the schools around converting what had been kind of unpaid kind of work light experiences that they called internships into more richer, deeper apprenticeships in that space. Our Ed Center and Youth Apprenticeship Program in Wisconsin has been around since 2000. Like I said, it's kind of a unique model. It's got a very strong technical trades slant. It started actually at a manufacturing company. And we operate as a collaborative under the YA program in Wisconsin. And we've had over 1,100 students that have completed that program over the last 20 years, gaining necessary training, credentials, and working and moving into both registered and direct hire opportunities outside of that space. And then we'll talk a lot about DuPage here a little bit more. So that DuPage is our opportunity to kind of work with all of the schools that are served by a regional collaborative of the EFE, DuPage Area Occupational Education Services, the Regional Office of Education, and a partnership with College of DuPage, and particularly Project Higher Ed, the apprenticeship program. We came in 2021. We actually launched during COVID with a manufacturing program. It's a kind of a small A apprenticeship. It's about helping students kind of find and land in that area, but we were very fortunate to be able to partner early on with Project Higher Ed to create that off-ramp, as well as other employer registered apprenticeships to kind of make that happen. And we've served about 150 plus students to date in 2 pathways, and we're starting to spread to other potential pathways in that area. Slide. So the DuPage project, as I said, is a regional model. It's focused on work-based learning and that journey, but we came in very much trying to build out a more immersive experience. So the basic format of that is, how do we help bring efficiencies to the schools in setting up and running work-based learning, and how do we bring employers to the table that in the high demand areas and give them opportunities to work with students maybe in a more in areas and focuses that they haven't been doing in the past. There's a fairly rich, again, kind of internship light model that exists in kind of business areas, but there wasn't a lot of actual what I would call immersive work-based learning apprenticeship type models that existed for high school students in the county. And so we've been able to start to move that needle forward and make those essential connections. Just a quick overview. You guys are all familiar with this, but this works best when you can bring in all of the key players and connect the dots. And we are working closely to build a regional model that really puts work-based learning at the center. And if you are able to build down into 9th and 10th and 11th and 12th, then it becomes easier for students to be able to make that decision about, I want to leverage the apprenticeship approach as my pathway versus I want to fall back into it later. I mean, that's been the kind of the challenge in that space. So we do a lot of work in kind of bringing together these main groups, working with the Workforce Investment Board, the chambers, the Economic Development Council, the educational providers, and then industry partners that are going to bring that kind of sector approach to the work. And so that's been a really positive outreach of this work, as we've really seen all parts of the county kind of come together and see the value, and now we're trying to work on that ever important task of scaling it at this point in time. This is just a real high level. So as I said, we tend to approach this work as youth apprenticeship, it's targeting kids 16, 17, 18 years of age. We really focus on making sure that it's a good experience for the student and the employer. And so we embed in all of our work kind of two phases of our apprenticeship approach. So the first is, kind of career exploration stuff. So when they get hired on by a company, these are all obviously paid. They all have these, they're all embedded on top of career technical education courses supported by the schools. But the first idea is to really help the student narrow in on those occupations. So we don't set it up that they have to necessarily identify the occupation that they're going to be trained in when they first set foot in the apprenticeship. They get a chance to maybe explore different areas within the company, different types of roles, and really get a chance to try on some of those. And then somewhere in that first half a year or a year, depending on the length of the program, they are encouraged to find or identify what occupation maybe best aligns. And that's usually when we come in and really try to start to talk about what is the next, what is the company able to offer for training and support, and what courses should they be looking at. And then as they finish that, depending on the structure, if we can identify that as a direct link to an existing registered apprenticeship, we help facilitate those conversations with the student, the employer, the post-secondary partner if needed, or maybe they transition into a post-secondary program of study, maintaining connectivity with the employer if that aligns, or maybe they land as a direct hire. So really depends on where they're at in their kind of journey. But this model allows us to treat this as kind of a long-term pre-apprenticeship. We put a lot of emphasis on developing the what employability skills, the durable skills that go along with this. We give them exposure to the different types of opportunities. And for employers who are apprenticeship provided, or where they have apprenticeship programs, either formal or informal, it really allows them to work with a student. In some cases, they're working 450 hours of on-the-job experience in a year. They're getting a chance to really have that long interview to know this is a good opportunity to extend the deeper, richer kind of apprenticeship model. And where we can, we look to formalize this by identifying and tracking skills and competencies that they've been able to engage in, and see if we can bridge those over or crosswalk those over to the registered apprenticeship, so they get credit for some of the hours that they worked, for some of the skills that they've mastered, to kind of accelerate and move that forward. In our work in DuPage with Project Higher Ed, we very quickly were able to identify students who went through this type of program, met some of the existing requirements for coursework that they were offering to make that happen. They also could look at that as that kind of easy on-ramp to the college, and stay with their employer to begin doing that registered apprenticeship. I think we've had a small handful at this point in manufacturing that have been able to stay on and do that. But as we grow and build out the earlier work-based learning, we expect to see more students who land here who are thinking about those as career off-ramps at that time, and then start to mirror the work we're doing with the high schools to make sure that we have those corresponding registered apprenticeship off-ramps with the college, or with employers or sector registered apprenticeships in the region. I don't know if there's time, but I did have a small video of one of our first students that kind of went through the program when we first launched, and it talks a little bit about their journey. Juan was able to continue on at Project Higher Ed, and I think he just completed his 2-year apprenticeship there, if I'm remembering, and is still employed with that employer. So it was a really positive experience of being able to see a student very early see this opportunity as an early launch into his career focus, get that experience in high school, and then bridge over, finish his program with the college, and finish his apprenticeship with that company, and now is hired at the company. So
That's great. Thank you so much, Andy. I know this is a great video and certainly appreciate it. I think what we'll probably do is, for the sake of time, have this available for folks when they get the slide deck to be able to view that that link. So thank you so much. We are so grateful, and certainly as your partners in DuPage County are appreciative of you coming today and talking about the work that GPS has been doing.
No problem. I'll stick around for a little bit.
Please do.
Excellent. So next we have Stephanie Gomez, who is the Director of Career Launch Chicago, who partners with City Colleges of Chicago. And so we'll now turn it over to Stephanie Gomez.
Thanks, Danielle. And I'm like, did I send this picture? This is my LinkedIn picture. I just don't know it's going to be used on here. We can actually, thank you. And you can go to the next slide. As Danielle mentioned, I am Stephanie Gomez. I'm the Director of Career Launch Chicago here at City Colleges of Chicago. Andy, thanks so much for your presentation. I was listening and I was like, wow, 25 years. We are only 3 years in, and so we're very much in our infancy, and it's great to hear and learn from the work that you all are doing. CLC, which is what we call it, is a collaborative initiative that's bringing together our City Colleges of Chicago, our Chicago Public Schools, and leading business partners here in Chicago to offer paid youth apprenticeships for high school seniors. These are usually businesses that believe very firmly that they play a role in job readiness and they play a role in talent development in the city of Chicago. And so when they come to our table, they're very, I would say, eager and open and flexible to think about the ways that we can make this work, because as some of you that are doing this in the high school space can know, it's very challenging to build these opportunities during the high school years. And so we can actually move on to the next one, because I'll go more into the weeds. Thanks, Danielle. So these are the program components for CLC. The first is a youth apprenticeship course at our Chicago Public Schools. So what this means is that we have actually been able to develop a course code so that different CPS high schools can offer this to their student body. And this is an honors course. It doesn't have a GPA eligibility, but it does require that students be on track to graduate. This youth apprenticeship course also has a teacher of record for the class. And so the teacher of record is usually the youth apprenticeship manager on the Chicago Public Schools side. And this is really important for us because when we work with employers, we actually develop a work process schedule with them. So what that means, right, is we actually list out the competencies that the student will be learning, developing, and mastering throughout the course of their youth apprenticeship. And we use that work process schedule to provide a grade during the youth apprenticeship course. And so that teacher of record is instrumental for us because she or he, right now it's open, but typically that person then works very closely with my team to ensure that, yes, the student is meeting, here we are, this is where they're at based on month 5, and they're on track to master by the end of the youth apprenticeship. Another thing that happens during the youth apprenticeship course is that this is what allows students to get early release. So all of our program participants leave after 6th period, commute to their site, and that's how they're able to complete 10 to 16 hours a week of paid on-the-job learning. Our employers pay $15.80 now an hour. We have some employers that pay $18 an hour. So it depends on the sector that they're going into. As I mentioned, the employers are committing to 1 year or 2 year. Right now, we have employers in advanced manufacturing. We've had employers in IT, in health, construction, collision tech. And so although our focus areas are advanced manufacturing, health, IT, and construction, we're open based on, again, the need of the city and how it connects to our city colleges. So that'll be the third point. Every time we meet with an employer and we're on board and we're moving forward with the partnership, we make sure that any experience is connected to an academic program, whether that's an associate, a basic certificate, or an advanced certificate that exists at city colleges. So when a student begins their youth apprenticeship, they actually receive what we call a journey map. And that journey map describes to them their senior year, but then it also describes to them literally like the classes they would take, the semesters they would take it at city colleges of Chicago, so that the student could see the long-term picture and how this experience connects to what's available to them post high school graduation. And the fourth component here is access to CLC financial assistance. So students get transportation assistance, they get CTA, which is our transit system here in Chicago, CTA bus passes. They also get any supplies. So for our farm tech students, we purchase the scrubs, we purchase the non-slip shoes. We cover the cost of the farm tech license. For our advanced manufacturing students, the steel toe boots, for construction, the pants, the jackets, all of that is what we provide for our students. And on my team, I have a youth apprenticeship coordinator, and her role is to be the go-to for the youth apprentices. So she is the one who's doing weekly or bi-weekly check-ins with all of our youth apprentices. She's the one who has the connection with the business partner throughout the course of the experience. And so for us, it's really key that she starts to develop very, I would say, informal relationships with the youth apprentices, because that's what allows us to hear from them if there's any challenges that we need to step in for. You can go to the next slide, Danielle. And so, as I mentioned, this is what it looks like to be an employer and commit to CLC. There's the paid component. There's also, when it comes to staffing, we ask all of our partners to identify a supervisor. This is the person who's going to do the regular check-ins with the apprentice. But we also ask them to provide a mentor. And this is a person that the student is able to develop an informal relationship with. We don't want them to be the same person. We want the student to be able to have somebody that they can go and ask questions about in a way that can feel less intimidating, or that they're not going to get in trouble for. And so all of our employer partners, when they come on, they know that they have to provide those two key roles for us. They're committing to a 1 year or a 2 year experience. That 1 year experience looks like 450 hours minimum. So again, that's at that 10 to 16 hours a week. And that 2 year experience is looking like 900 hours minimum. And that's once they go on to city colleges of Chicago, we're able to increase the hours a week to 20 to 25 hours. As I mentioned, all of our employers work with my team to build that work process schedule. And then we're not here yet, but we are starting to socialize the idea with our partners about them providing tuition costs. And the reason we're not here quite yet is because we've been able to use a lot of the scholarships that are available for city college students. And so we haven't had necessarily a hard time being able to cover costs for students should they move to city colleges of Chicago. But as we think about really developing all the foundational pieces to move to a registered youth apprenticeship, because we are not registered, we know that this is a key piece of just sustainability and long-term existence for CLC. You can move on to the next one. And so a big piece for us too is that employer support. So I think on the youth apprentice side, there's a very holistic approach, because we have a strong CPS team and CCC team that are consistently talking to one another and supporting the student through their youth apprenticeship. And so we want to provide the same thing for our employer partners. Our employer partners are able to select between biweekly or monthly calls with our youth apprenticeship coordinator. And these are quick calls. These are, hey, how's it going? How's the student doing? Has anything come up that I need to know? Typically it's like, no, we're good. We're awesome. I'm here if you need anything. Then we have the progression tracker, which is part of our site visit. So the progression tracker is essentially what the employer fills out in preparation for the site visit. It lists out all the work competencies. And it's essentially where they're measuring the progress and the growth of each student. And so they fill that out prior to our site visit. And during our site visit, we're able to, one, sit down with the youth apprentice first and say, hey, how's it going? How are you feeling? What's come up for you? Do you have any questions? And then we have a three-way meeting. So it includes the youth apprenticeship, our youth apprenticeship coordinator, and the employer. And that's when they're going over the progression tracker. So it's we want to go through everything, let you know where we see room for growth, where we see you really excelling, and then opening it up for the youth apprentice so they can ask any questions that they may have around that. And then it's going to wrap up, that meeting will wrap up with a one-on-one between the youth apprenticeship coordinator and the youth apprentice to kind of just debrief in a safer space. If anything came up that was heavy for the student, we want to hold space for them to share out, or if there's any questions. And then I think that was the last slide, Danielle, but I do just want to share a couple of things. The first is that we have also, similar to Andy, I know we're very young still, but we have also seen some really great success stories with our work. We did have a student get hired on right after high school graduation in advanced manufacturing, and then be supported as he completed his basic certificate at City Colleges of Chicago. I do want to also just share a little bit about a challenge, right? I think the other piece for our work specifically is our team sits at City Colleges of Chicago. We try to really illustrate for the youth apprentice what that journey can look like should they come to CCC. But if a student chooses to go to a 4-year immediately after high school, then the program it ends for us because we're not able to support them through that piece. And so I think that's a big challenge for us that we're seeing, where we're trying to really build out ways to have all the experiences connect and also allow students to see CCC as a really great option for coming here, getting that associates, and then transferring into a 4-year. And then I think right now, yes, I think that's everything right now. We're getting ready for our third cohort. I shared the sectors that we're in, and yes, I think that's all, Danielle.
Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing all that valuable information about your work in Chicago around youth apprenticeship. So we certainly appreciate you joining us and being part of the conversation today. Next up, we're going to have Eric Hill share with us. And Eric is the Executive Director for Skills USA, another LinkedIn photo that wasn't approved, but we grabbed it and used it to show. So Eric, we've got you up there. And so we'll let you have an opportunity to talk about what you guys are doing in Skills USA.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. And if you want to unshare my picture there, that's okay with me, or I can stare at it the whole time. It doesn't really matter. But I want to say thank you to Stephanie and Andy for giving me outlines of their programs. Really, really great to hear some work that's happening around youth apprenticeships and just kind of different models and different ways of thinking about it. Skills USA, we're going on. This is our 60th year as an organization, and our intention is to prepare the next generation of skilled workers. So we connect directly with high schools and colleges all across the state of Illinois and really across the country to help prepare students and get them into these career opportunities. One of the things that we've probably most been known for the past 60 years is our hands-on technical skilled competition. That is where we will bring in about 600 industry partners. In fact, we just had this a couple of weeks ago in Peoria, Illinois. We just had 2,200 high school and college students competing in 130 different hands-on technical skilled competitions. All of those competitions are run by industry partners. And so that's everything from welding to cosmetology to culinary arts, public safety, construction, you name it, we have a career field for it. And about 7 years ago, we had a large number of our employers coming back to us and saying, how can we translate these incredible competitions to actual job opportunities? At the same time, a lot of our schools are talking about internships and job shadowing and how their students might get the chance to go see career fields in action through, work-based tours and things like that, but weren't really actually getting that hands-on exposure and being able to try and experience what those career opportunities look like. So a few years ago, we started an internship program with one of our employers where Skills USA literally just acted as the conduit. So the employer had sites across the state of Illinois and asked our team to connect our local Skills USA chapters and act as sort of the first round of interviews for finding potential candidates that could walk into those internships. Quickly after that program was up and running and established, we ran into the COVID, and so gave us a chance to kind of regroup, kind of reevaluate. We had about 200 students go through that internship experience over the course of about 18 months. So it was a lot of students really quickly, and got to see a really high amount of feedback from about 27 different locations from that particular employer, and impacted about 56, 57 of our high schools. And so we took that information and really started evaluating what it would take or what it would look like if we were to expand or grow this internship opportunity. And with working with John Deere at the time, John Deere had established a youth apprenticeship program with the U.S. Department of Labor at their manufacturing facility. That U.S. Department of Labor credential allowed John Deere to be able to hire students as young as 16 years of age. So it lowered some of those restrictions on child labor laws and some of the higher risk occupations. It also made it so that insurance companies did not raise or change work comp rates on the employer for hiring those students as Department of Labor apprentices. And so in working with them, they said one of their most critical pieces of feedback was the bureaucracy or some of the challenges to establish that Department of Labor certificate made it possible for a company like John Deere to be able to do that, because they could dedicate staff members to really learning the Department of Labor's process and figuring that out. But as they tried rolling that out to their dealer network, the dealers did not have the capacity or, quite honestly, the interest to establish such a complex system that might only gain them 1 or 2 employees a year. So kind of working with John Deere, their recommendation to us was to act as an intermediary, which sounds like very similar to what Andy's doing. And so we currently either directly sponsor or support just under 100 companies across the state of Illinois in a total of 36 different occupational codes. So we have apprentices in everything from manufacturing to EMT, paramedic services, to automotive service technicians, to diesel technicians. So wide variety of areas that we support. And really our focus has been an employer-centric focus. So we don't go into communities or don't go into school systems and tell them that we are going to be their work-based learning solution. But what we do is we go into communities where employers have the interest or the desire to start recruiting or attracting a new pipeline, specifically around youth. We help those employers establish a youth-focused apprenticeship program, and then help the employers recruit directly from our Skills USA chapters, and then also other high schools and programs that are in the area. Some of the unintended consequences, I'll be honest, some of the benefits that we've already heard about today, we've seen those same things, but I'll talk about some of the unintended benefits that we found. One thing is that our employers typically are making a dramatic investment in their workforce, whether it's training and developing a new hire or upskilling their existing workforce. And there's a lot of federal, state, and local dollars out there that are designed to help employers that they're just not aware of, or the complexities of getting access to those dollars make it sometimes a challenge for them to really utilize those services. So one of the benefits, our number one focus is to get our members career opportunities and our students into these internships and apprenticeships and even pre-apprenticeship opportunities. But the unintended consequences that we found that employers can actually take advantage and recoup major investments that they're already making in their training and development of their workforce. So I heard the conversation around students transitioning from high school into post-secondary and what that looks like in apprenticeship programs. So our students will typically start their apprenticeship program either the summer of their junior year or summer of their senior year with the employer. We allow the employer to establish the work schedule for that particular apprentice. The employer could have 5 different work schedules for 5 different apprentices if they wished, as long as they're meeting the minimum obligations of the Department of Labor's allocation of journey worker or manager to apprentice ratio. We don't care when the student is working. The student is obviously receiving or has to be receiving the instruction from their high school training program. So if they're going to be a welder, they have to be taking some sort of manufacturing program or welding program back at their high school while they're in the apprenticeship program. But then we really allow the employer to set and establish what that work schedule is going to look like. We've developed a system through Salesforce that allows us to track and manage the hours from the students. So the students report every week the number of hours they work. We collect the transcripts from their schools, and then we also check in quarterly with the employer to get validation of those transcripts, and then also talk about like more of a 360 evaluation. How is the student performing? How do they feel the apprenticeship program is working? And then also, what does the student's transition path from high school to college look like? Of our current apprentices, we're seeing about an 86% retention rate post high school graduation with the employer. So we are really not establishing, we don't want to establish this as just a high school internship program. This really is a proving grounds and a pipeline into employment for the employer. So we don't want to see the employer overstaffing or bringing on more work than they need from our high schoolers. We want them to hire them with the intention or with the thought process of how do we transition these young men and women into full-time jobs within the employers. We also have seen our employers then make the investment back into the apprentice by sending them to community colleges and having that continued education moving forward. We've seen a lot of success with that right now in our automotive programs, where students are working more so in a lube tech type of position, and then working their way into an actual accredited technician and working and turning profit for the dealership at a fairly quick rate. And I apologize, I kind of got sidetracked there for just a moment. The other unintended benefit I wanted to talk about was some of those employer financial benefits. We have an employer right now. I just completed the work for them. It's ATEC Ambulance up in the northern suburbs. They have currently 57 of our apprentices that are hired. Those 57 apprentices are going to recoup just under $175,000 in state income tax credit reimbursement to ATEC Ambulance, because ATEC is not only investing in their employees, but they're investing in the future workforce. So it's all their tax incentives, rebates, and even WIOA dollars that are available to employers, depending on the structure of the company and some qualifications of the apprentice. But one of the things that Skills USA Illinois has really focused on is how can we be that sort of ambassador to all of those programs and financial opportunities that exist to help our employers see the value and not just an apprenticeship program, but really investing in youth and helping start developing this new pipeline and new workforce. So again, thank you for everyone for being on. Thank you to the 2 other partners for talking about their incredible programs, and would be happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Danielle, do you want me to step in?
That would be great. And thank you so
Okay.
much, Eric. We appreciate you joining us today and sharing more about Skills USA. I'll turn it over to Levon.
Okay, well, we're also very fortunate this morning. It took a little, our board chair for the Illinois Community College Board, Laz Lopez, who is also the associate superintendent for Township High School District 214, is making time to also address youth apprenticeships. For those of you that don't know or haven't met him or everything, he is staunch supporter, a champion of youth apprenticeships, models it in their school district, and is a supporter for our own community college system in terms of apprenticeships. And he believes in it and practices it himself. So we're very fortunate. I know he was flying in from DC late last night. We weren't quite sure the logistics, but it worked out. And we're very happy to have you with us. Feel free to share your perspectives on youth apprenticeship or you know,
Sure.
high school, whatever, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lavon, and I appreciate having a few minutes to speak to this group. I think I want to start just a little bit by talking about from a broader lens, sort of our purpose. I recently was able to listen to Dr. Anthony Borrell from Cornell University talk about the positive outcomes linked to finding purpose, and that include earning more money, being physically healthier, and living longer. And he made this argument that purpose is sometimes often viewed as sort of a luxury reserved for a privileged few. And connecting this to our work today is sort of when these pathway to career models that we've been working on in the state for many years now, when they work well, it really drives this momentum through our levels of engagement at an individual level and through the development of an individual's self-efficacy. Students need opportunities to explore in a safe environment. And certainly high schools engaging in sort of this early youth apprenticeship work, it provides a time for students to be in a context that allows them to fail forward, allows them to discover a future. And it's certainly simple, yet this profound, I believe, truth that drives our work is that purpose is not actually found, Dr. Burrell argues, but that it's cultivated. And that's our charge as school leaders, provide sort of this enriched field of opportunities that informs a personal cultivation towards a purpose. And I think with all of our work, none of this can happen by chance. So our designs and working between high schools and colleges related to this has to ensure inevitability, that all students are directly engaged, that all Illinois residents have the opportunities that are afforded them through our community college system and our public high school system. So Illinois has certainly spent the last decade, and ICCB has led the effort to create the legislative foundation that supports the design of these career-connected learning opportunities. And certainly from a local level, specifically with youth apprenticeships, we started with only a handful of students, about 3. We had 4 different community college partners that help provide the related technical instruction. And we've grown into, including this newest cohort, close to 150 youth apprentices. 50% of these apprentices are female, 50% are male, 40% are students of poverty, 18% are students with IEPs and with 504s, and 6% are second language learners. And we really are very proud of the fact that it's helped these students discover their future and make better, more informed decisions about what those next stages are. We just had the opportunity to speak in DC for the Urban Institute and the Department of Labor. One young lady, Emily Son, who talked about her manufacturing experience at Demji. This is a young lady in a very non-traditional field. We found an employer that had female leadership to help her be successful. During this experience, she got her, she earned several certifications. They deal with plastics and other manufacturing processes. It's a French company. She's going to start work full time for them as soon as she graduates high school, and then continue on with the local community college with Harper to finish her other certificates and degrees. One of the key facets of this work, and I think opportunities for us moving forward, is really this ability of us being able to hand off and seamlessly transition students. Our role in high schools are to help students engage with their fullest potential of possibilities, to give them a place where they can discover as much of what they don't want to do as well as what they do want to do. Yeah. Youth apprenticeships, it's simply part of a sort of this broader portfolio of work-based learning experiences that helps students affirm a career choice. Emily could have gone there and has spent the last year working there and decided this isn't for me. The hope is the fact that the earlier coursework she's taken in partnership with our community college, earlier on, placing her in a manufacturing space and spending several years in these coursework really set the stage for her to know what she was walking into. And this is what engaged her and she was excited about. And she was able to find her place. I think this is where the real power for us is as a state. It's this ability that really leverage this for our students who particularly may need to be earning a living while they're in school. And at the heart of why I engage in youth apprenticeship was really for those students that were choosing work over their future and a paycheck today over what their long-term potential could be, and helping students graduate into careers and not jobs. So that if a student, for example, is a CNA at Northwest Community Hospital as a high school senior in the apprenticeship program with Harper, that that isn't necessarily the end point. That is really the starting point, and it puts them in this environment where they realize, oh, I can be a nurse, I can be a surgical tech, I can do all of these opportunities in the allied health fields or in the nursing fields that opens their eyes to possibility and raises their bar of expectations on themselves, while they're earning some early college credit to create that momentum towards degree completion, and while they develop a network of professionals that are going to help them succeed. I am very excited for this work, and I'm so glad to see so many individuals here on this webinar today that are also, and I appreciate all the speakers today that presented and the great work they're doing, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Laws. And now you see why we are so thrilled to have him as our board chair, because he has such a sense of vision. And I mean that. I'm not just, he does. He has a big picture, and we all need to think about this work. I think that's so critical. We do want our students to have purpose. We want them to have careers, not just a job. We want them to have fulfilling lives. And all of those things can happen through the work that you are all doing. And doing very well, I might add. So thank you again, Laws, and feel free to stay on as we have more and have questions and answers. I don't know if your schedule permits. If you can sit and listen and interject when you want, that's great. Thank you.
I have to jump off, I'm afraid, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laz. Thanks for helping ground the work we are doing and
Yes.
really make those intentional connections. With our last few minutes, we know that we're really brief and probably don't have time for good enriching conversation or discussion or questions as our 9 o'clock is coming up quickly. So what I'd like to ask is for our, I'm going to stop sharing. If I know some of our speakers have had to hop off, if people are comfortable in sharing their contact information in the chat, if people have follow-up questions that they can ask or bring to the group. And then also, you know, the contact information for the ICCB work group that helps convene the learning committee along with Angela and Levon. And so feel free to reach out to anybody on that committee as well who can help have additional conversation around this work. So for the sake of time, we want, oh, go ahead, Levon.
Now, can I jump in real fast? I know for the sake of time, I do want to thank, for those of you that may not know, we have an Illinois Community College Board, Community College Apprenticeship Work Group. And that is made up of Danielle Kuglin-Segal from College of DuPage, Corey Young from City Colleges, Kurt Rendell and Veronica Inselman from Heartland, and Bonnie Moore from Lakeland. And they are experts in what they are doing. We consider them, you know, they're on the committee because of their wealth of work and knowledge. Feel free to reach out to them. I think they're fine with that. And you see the slide, but I wanted to just say personally, thank you to them. They're the impetus and Danielle led this particular one to pull this learning community together. It's a great group to work with. And we're really trying to grow apprenticeship and give it the attention it deserves through the community college system. So just thank you again, everyone, to the work group.
Well, thank you, Levon, and thank you to our guest speakers. We are grateful for your time, your expertise, and sharing with us today. Happy Apprenticeship Week, everyone. Hope this is a great way that you get to help celebrate, and certainly sharing information, whether that be through social media or attending other webinars or events that are going on this week to continue to promote the work of youth apprenticeship. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Eric, he's gone.
Oh, hey, Danielle, Angela, nice job. Really a nice set of apprenticeships and,
Oh, you know what, Levon, let me see. Stop recording. Yes. Hold on.
I wasn't gonna, but good point.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to end it.